Trump signs a common sense travel ban, and the left, they're lighting their hair on fire. Como has had to come to Jesus, realizing that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't such a great idea to allow for open borders. Allowing criminals to pour in the country maybe wasn't the humanitarian gesture we were all going for. The good news is America finally has a president who doesn't need a think tank, call terrorism, and to act fast. He also doesn't need a think tank to learn how to exit the stage. When you have terrorist attacks on the United States soil, because unfortunately we just did in Boulder, Colorado, you don't sit around and pontificate for years to come. You act fast to protect the United States of America. Let's check in with what real leadership looks like.
Attack in Boulder, Colorado has underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them. In the 21st century, we've seen one terror attack after another carried out by foreign visa overstayers from dangerous places all over the world. And thanks to Biden's open door policies, today there are millions and millions of these illegals who should not be in our country. In my first term, my powerful travel restrictions were one of our most successful policies, and they were a key part of preventing major foreign terror attacks on American soil. We will not let what happened in Europe happen to America. That's why on my first day back in office, I directed the Secretary of State to perform a security review of high-risk regions and make recommendations for where restrictions should be imposed. Among the national security threats their analysis considered are the large-scale presence of terrorists, failure to cooperate on visa security, inability to verify travelers' identities, inadequate record-keeping of criminal histories, and persistently high rates of illegal visa overstays, and other things. Very simply, we cannot have open migration from any country where we cannot safely and reliably vet and screen those who seek to enter the United States. That is why today I am signing a new executive order placing travel restrictions on countries including Yemen, Somalia, Haiti, Libya, and numerous others. The strength of the restrictions we're applying depends on the severity of the threat posed. The list is subject to revision based on whether material improvements are made, and likewise, new countries can be added as threats emerge around the world. But we will not allow people to enter our country who wish to do us harm, and nothing will stop us from keeping America safe. Thank you very much.
You know, my brother and I once were traveling, and we had stopped at a Walmart somewhere, and there were a ton of Somalians. And we were talking about my mom, who was saying that Somalians were really dangerous. And we're like, why does mom think Somalians are so dangerous? And then we look it up. Oh, because they want Americans' heads chopped off. That's what they believe. That's in their ethos. So this isn't political. This isn't theory. This is just hardcore facts. And President Trump is bringing common sense. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments. Ben Psaki thinks that Trump bringing back one of the most controversial, a travel ban, is just his way of changing the subject. Because isn't that how we all change the subject, right? Just creating a massive travel ban? Watch.
Tonight, Donald Trump decided to basically bring back one of the most controversial policies from his first term, from very early in his first term. Tonight, the president announced he's banning travel from 12 countries: Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. He also partially restricted travel from 7 more countries. And all of this is an echo of the travel ban he instituted in his first term. one that sparked understandable nationwide protests and a series of court challenges. This is also exactly the kind of provocative action we have come to expect from Trump when he wants to lash out and change the subject.
No, Jen, he's not changing the subject. You just don't like the subject, and you've completely lost the plot, like so many of your cohorts. This has always been the subject. Making America safe again has always been the subject. This is why you guys are losing elections, because it's just way over your head. This is what Trump campaigned on. This is why he won. And now he's following through on his promises. This is not a surprise to the millions of Americans who voted for him, who are tired of hearing sirens all the time. Now get this. Chris Cuomo, as if this isn't weird enough, we're in bizarro world. He's like coming out of a coma. The guy who was in disbelief that there was any border problem at all for years, who mocked anybody who had concerns over the border and maybe the fact that criminals and cartel could be pouring into the country. You know, that guy, that Chris Cuomo, who made fun of anybody who had care and concern and wanting to make America safe again. Yeah, that guy. He's now realizing that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't a good idea to have open borders, because now there's cartel in the United States. This is news to Cuomo. But to many of us, maybe you, I know certainly me, this is not news to me. Let me know in the comments, is this brand new to you or just Cuomo? Watch. He thinks it's not, quote, sexy enough. No, it's not getting enough attention, Cuomo, because it doesn't go along with the left mainstream media narrative. That's why. But it is the truth, and it's always been the truth. These people, oh my gosh.
Enough attention, but it is changing. It's changing. Is what is really threatening us here at home, okay? It ain't trans athletes, these culture wars, okay? It's fundamentalism. The president, just on our watch, signed a better version of his original travel ban. Why? To defend against the number one threat, terror at the hands of fundamentalists, okay? Now, what's interesting to me is
you and Jake Tapper are just waking up to this? What? That you've been gaslighting us for years? Oh, okay. What is it? Tell us. What is it? No, really, please.
the president is great at selling, great at hype, and that's a big part of politics. How come I had to tell you about this? You know what I'm saying? If it had been something else that was something that they think has political currency, they would have been loud and proud about it. But this travel ban just kind of came and went as part of some other event tonight.
If who thought it was worth some sort of political currency? The left? Exactly. They didn't think it had political currency because it doesn't go along with the left's rhetoric. Ergo, the brainwashing, propaganda, and I think he's in such a brain fog and dissociative. I get it. I know. I understand. It's really hard, Como. He's coming out of the coma, Como. Now Cuomo's going to tell you why he really believes the left isn't giving it attention, that we have terrorists on American soil committing terror crimes, but instead they want to talk about pronouns. And Polis, our governor in Colorado, wants to throw us in jail if we misgender somebody.
Getting the attention it deserves. Why? It's not sexy. We lived it through 9/11. People have forgotten. They want to move on. They want something different. And it's a mistake.
It's a mistake that you just barely started paying attention, Como, but welcome to the party. Welcome. We all voted for Trump because we've been awake to this. We've been awake to this threat and danger because we've seen it, we've experienced it, people have lost lives to it. We're just now hearing some of the tip of the iceberg reporting from mainstream about this. you're going to share in just a moment, Como, about another nightclub that was busted up. It was run by the Mexican cartel. We had a nightclub run here in Colorado by the TDA gang members. But this was all a figment of our imagination, according to the left, because you guys have been gaslighting us for so long. But Cuomo, now, either you knew that the whole time that you were gaslighting us, or you're really just waking up to these facts. Let me know in the comments, do you think that he really is just waking up to these facts, or is he trying to just pull one over on us again? Because Cuomo, millions of us knew that this was a problem, and we've been saying this was a problem, and you in the media said that we were racist, and now you're just acknowledging a little bit of the problem, and this isn't even the tip of the iceberg, unfortunately, and that is why Trump has signed this travel ban.
Getting the attention it deserves. Why? It's not sexy. We lived it through 9/11. People have forgotten. They want to move on. They want something different, and it's a mistake.
It's not sexy. It's not a show. This is the problem with the left. For a long time, they were leading the charge because they were genius marketers. But this isn't a show. This is reality. This is real. These threats are real. These terrorists are real. This is not, Trump jokes about central casting, this and that, but this is not central casting. This is real stuff. So if they look the part, if they have the MS-13 tattoo, they probably are MS-13, because I've never met somebody that's like, hey, that's a great tattoo. But the left thinks everything is just about a movie, playing the part. This is reality. This is a real threat. And thank God we have a president who's acting on these real threats.
Big announcements. The first, 72 illegal immigrants were arrested at an illicit, unlicensed nightclub operated by the Zetas, the Mexican cartel, just outside Charleston, South Carolina. Mexican cartel operating in America, One of those included a Honduran man wanted by Interpol for murder in his home country, Bad guys there, coming here. CBP, Custom and Border Protection, announced the seizure of 110,000 pounds of the materials that make meth and chemicals that can be used to make fentanyl from China, destined for a cartel in Mexico, Now, you will say, well, what does that have to do with extreme Islamism? What, you're talking about drugs? They are all fundamentalist ideologies that are against us and our way of life, and they are trying to attack it. So I want to bring in Ron Vitiello, Trump's senior advisor to CBP, was a Border Patrol agent doing the job of keeping us safe for 30 years. Ron, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
So I see a better conceived pitch on the travel ban that the president just signed, obviously learning from the legal process the last time. Eventually, it wound up being upheld by the Supreme Court, but it had been finessed. Why is it important to put this list of a dozen countries, mostly Middle East, but also Venezuela, on there, and to have special standards for who comes through those countries into here? And what do you mean specifically by that?
Well, there's experience here, right? We know that these countries fail to or do not have the ability to vet people that are asking for visas to come into the United States. So restricting that travel until they change their behavior, they change our access to their systems, all with the goal of making sure that people that are coming here deserve to come, have the ability to come, and then, are not a threat to public safety or our life and livelihoods in the United States, especially when you're talking about this hatred, this ideology of the Islamists who, that they hate people just because of what religion they are or where they come from in the world. And so we've got to keep that, to the extent possible, out of the country. We have way too much of it already here. And so when we've done so well at the immediate border, at our physical borders with Canada and Mexico, now we have to double down on all the other ways and avenues that people can get in the United States with bad things or bad people themselves. And this is just another layer of all the things that the White House is doing to protect us.
This isn't theory. This isn't racism. This is called protection We have to protect the United States of America, or we have nothing. This is what the left left us with: open borders, delusion, and we're cleaning it up now. Meanwhile, Caitlin Collins and company act like this is just some sort of student council debate. This is serious business, Caitlin. But they just go to Smirk College, I guess, and learn how to smirk their way through arguments. They think everything is just about Trump getting back at somebody. They think he just wants to get back at Harvard. No, he wants to stop the propaganda machine. He wants to stop the hate-filled machine that is breeding through our college system. It is very prevalent through colleges.
Tonight, after President Trump signed a series of proclamations behind closed doors that includes a sweeping travel ban on 12 countries with a partial restriction on 7 others that we just mentioned, reintroducing a controversial step that he took early in his first term with some differences this time tonight. What we are reading in this proclamation is this takes effect at midnight, 5 days from now on June 9th, and it bans travel to the United States from Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. This also comes as the president signed a proclamation suspending international visas for new students at Harvard as he is trying to block foreign students from enrolling at the university. My sources are here in the newsroom on this breaking news. CNN's Priscilla Alvarez, the New York Times' David Sanger, along with former federal prosecutor Shan Wu. Priscilla, let's start with you just in terms of the differences in the travel ban we saw in term 1 and what we're seeing now.
Well, there are quite a bit of similarities as well as some glaring differences, particularly with the inclusion of Afghanistan. But this is something that President Trump has been telegraphing since day one. It's also something that I'm told has been an ongoing discussion and deliberation within this administration. And they felt quite empowered because, as a reminder, in the first term, the Supreme Court eventually did essentially okay a version of the travel ban, saying that the administration had broad discretion. The president specifically had broad discretion when it comes to limiting the entry of certain non-citizens. Now, as far as the similarities in that iteration that was eventually approved or okayed by the Supreme Court.
Now, of course, we know the left is going to be calling racism and this is an oligarchy. No, this is called safety. This is called protection. This is called common sense.
Somalia, Yemen, Libya, Chad, Iran, those were in that iteration.
Yeah.
Afghanistan, it wasn't. Cuba and Venezuela, similarly, weren't. That is going to matter moving forward, particularly in Republican politics and in Florida. But the basis of this has been for this administration, both the first term and now, the screening and the vetting, and that these countries do not provide sufficient screening and vetting. Therefore, they are limiting the entry. But this is certainly a blow to those non-citizens from those countries.
It's a blow to those non-citizens from those countries. Look, we have to have law and order. Since I've been doing this video, I hear a million sirens. This is not okay. We have to have law and order in the United States, or we're not going to have any country at all. And for the people who are arguing that people are fleeing here to gain asylum from places that are too dangerous to live, soon, if we're not careful, and I believe we are going to be careful because thank God we do have Trump. If we went along with Biden or we had Kamala, we would have no more America, because our America would look like the countries that these people are fleeing from.
Yeah, and David, as I was reading through this earlier, essentially what the president is saying here is that he can take some of these countries off if he changes their mind or changes, the bar that they've set for the vetting, and he can also add other countries. And basically,
exactly, because if you follow by law and order and you abide by the rules, meaning we can vet people coming in. We have to know. Whoever thought it was a good idea to not know who's coming into the country? I mean, give me a break. That is insanity. If you thought that or still think that, please let me know in the comments. I would love to think that people are that good. I do believe we all have goodness deep down in our heart, but you can't just trust people that blindly. There are some horrible people in this world, unfortunately.
Is arguing this came after a review by the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio.
This was done, I think, in a much more skillful way than they did with the original, the so-called Muslim ban.
He tries to make it seem like it's some sort of plot. They've missed the plot once again. The left has missed the plot. Trump is not just plotting like, oh, let me just try to get away with it, or we're sneakier this time. No, he's taking measures to protect the United States of America. What don't they get? I mean, are they a part of the problem? I ask you again. Are they brainwashed, or are they in on it and trying to brainwash others? I don't understand.
For the United States to judge the backgrounds of people who have applied for visas. And what he doesn't do, of course, is lay out the standard that they must meet in order to get past that list. And, it's sort of we'll know it when we see it.
No, there is a standard. You can't have a criminal background. You can't have raped children or murdered somebody. I mean, this is common sense, but they're really trying to dumb down Americans, and a lot of people have fallen for it. I mean, I don't understand what this guy is talking about. Do you?
And you've seen him do this a number of times in different ways, in different orders in recent times, where he's designing it to give himself the maximum discretion and making the argument to the courts that this is within the president's authority. This is sort of an executive branch decision.
Yeah, it is an executive branch decision to put the best interest of the United States of America and heart and mind of the president. That is literally the job of the president, literally. So again, they're just completely missing the mark, but we expect nothing less from people with Trump derangement syndrome. Now we're going to hear from Shannon and how he looks at it legally, as Caitlin says. But here's the problem. He thinks, oh, the whole thing is out because the guy who just committed the heinous crime in Boulder, the terror crime in Boulder, he's from Egypt and there's no ban on Egypt. So obviously Trump is just doing this to change the subject. Right, Jen Psaki? No. The reason there's no ban on Egypt is because Egypt is working with us. But then you say, but how come we have a terrorist here? Yes, and the only reason he was here was because of the Biden administration, because they let him in. In fact, he was deported and they let him in again. So when we have law and order, this wouldn't happen. He wouldn't have even been here. So if Egypt stopped playing by the rules and they're like, we're not going to vet people and let people know, then maybe Trump would change his mind about that. But that is the reasoning behind this one, Shannon. But let's still hear him and his smirkiness explain his logic on this. Watch.
Go back to the original Trump one, and as Priscilla was talking about, the Supreme Court gave the president the raw power to do this. The factual predicate here, I think, is really poor. I mean, he talks about the Boulder, Colorado suspect whose country is actually not on the banned list.
Told you I was going to say that. How did I know? Am I psychic? The problem is, in the last administration, there were no rules unless it made Nancy Pelosi and her friends rich. But that's why the grown-ups are back in the White House. Praise God, even though a lot of the Republicans are just as baffling as the Democrats. I do appreciate Trump and his immediate team because they are with it. They are smart. They are bringing common sense and safety back to America. But if you want to see the horrible incident that happened in my home state of Colorado just recently and what is going on with those charges, then watch this video because it's coming up right now.